Today, we are going to be talking about the Chernobyl Liquidators. In case you were not aware, the Chernobyl Liquidators were a cleanup crew sent to the Chernobyl nuclear reactor accident that happened in 1986. It is still widely debated to this day just how many liquidators there were, but it is theorized there was anywhere from 300,000 to 800,000. The Chernobyl liquidators were primarily made of power plant workers, military units, and firefighters around the Chernobyl area, as well as some unprofessional volunteers. Their jobs were including, but not limited to, cleaning debris from around the reactor, rebuilding roads in the area, and deconstructing and burying radioactive buildings and trees in the area. One such is the Red Forest that was cleared out and buried in the area. Now, before we go any deeper with the video, I would just like to inform you, the majority of Chernobyl liquidators did not know the risks that Chernobyl had. That's why you'll see a sharp decline of volunteer liquidators as the years go on, until the end of the cleanup. The majority of volunteer liquidators came in 1986, when the event first happened. I assume this is because it was not made clear to the public just how dangerous and deadly Chernobyl was as an accident. As the years go on, you will see less volunteers. The majority of the liquidators were middle-aged men, anywhere from 35 to 39 years old. You know, if I was going into a nuclear meltdown, I wouldn't really want older middle-aged men. I would want younger men because they're a lot more quick on their feet and they're a lot more flexible, things like that. But I guess because the majority of liquidators were volunteers, it makes sense, at least to me. At first, for cleaning up debris, they didn't actually use the liquidators themselves inside of the building during the meltdown, or for, I believe, a few weeks after that. They actually used RCVs, remote controlled vehicles. The problem with those was the radiation in the area fried their electronics over time, so eventually they had to resort to using the liquidators, which got them the nickname biorobots by some. One thing I found very sad about the liquidators is that only 2 to 3% of them had dosimeters. That's over the entire course of the cleanup for all the years that it took. If you are not aware, a dosimeter is a device that is used to measure ionizing radiation in an area. Tools like that are pretty important when it comes to cleaning up something like, I don't know, a nuclear meltdown. Unfortunately, there is very little to no data on how much internal radiation the liquidators took. This is sad, as we can't really figure out just how badly these people got injured or sickened by the radiation. Another thing, the liquidators were very under-equipped for the situation they were going into. A lot of them had to wear lead suits that only had one use each, as they would absorb radiation too quickly. Another thing about the lead suits, the lead that was used to make the suits was torn off of government buildings, so they were actively salvaging the area to make things to help them salvage the area. The liquidators during the cleanup had to live in tent camps that could stretch for miles and housed thousands living in very small, cramped tents. After waking up, a liquidator could have had to wait hours to get their task for the day. That means that's a lot of lost time and a lot of lost effort. I'm going to present to you a first-hand account by a liquidator now, one by the name of Anatoly Zakharov. He was a fireman who was dispatched to the Chernobyl incident at around 1:20 in the morning. Could you imagine going years without work and then suddenly you're cast into what might be the most dangerous thing you could do in your profession? As I stated, Anatoly had reached the Chernobyl incident with his crew at around 1:25 in the morning. The lieutenant of Anatoly's crew decided to take every remaining member of his crew, except Anatoly, up into the reactor. This would be the last time Anatoly saw any of them alive. Very important to state, the lieutenant and the rest of the crew had basically no radiation protection gear whatsoever, so they were diving into an active nuclear meltdown without any radiation gear. The lieutenant and the rest of the crew proceeded to take more radiation dosage than that of the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. By some miracle or curse, the entire crew was able to make it out safely, but then they died 2 weeks later in the hospital due to radiation poisoning. The bodies of these firefighters were so radioactive that they had to use lead coffins welded shut as to not contaminate the surrounding area of where they were buried. Oh, what's in this welded shut lead box in the ground? Oh, you know, just a radioactive firefighter. Anatoly himself stayed at the Chernobyl incident until 2 p.m., which is about 13 hours from when he started. Over the course of this, Anatoly took on about 300 rem of radiation, while the average lethal dose is about 400, though, in Anatoly's own words, he believed that it was greatly underscaled just how much he took on. Anatoly was awarded the Red Star for his bravery in 1996. 10 years after his heroic deeds. The fact that somebody can push their body to that much of a limit, 300 rem of radiation recorded, just to get recognized 10 years after their deeds have been done, is insane to me. And sadly, that's the case for most liquidators. Majority of them have never gotten the recognition they deserve, even after all of these years. But this was a very brief explanation of who the liquidators were and a first-hand account. Hopefully you find them as interesting as I do, and I will see you later.